Hello everyone, my name is Govin and today I will show you guys how to create a simple and easy 2-player ping pong game using Pygame. Let's get started. So these are the number of steps that we will follow. Let's get started with the first one. So the first step, I'm going to create a ping pong folder in my OneDrive and open it up in VS Code. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to press open folder. Now I'm going to look for my ping pong folder. Okay, great. Now I'm going to create a main.py file. Main.py. Okay, so the first step, I'm going to import the necessary modules. So I'm going to write import modules. Okay, so let's import the Pygame module and the random module. Import Pygame and import random. Now for the next step, I will initialize the Pygame. Initialize game, and then we write pygame.init. Now let's move on to step 2 of initializing Pygame. Okay, so for the second step, I'm going to create the screen dimensions. So let's do that here. Create screen dimensions. Okay, and then we'll start off with the screen width. And let's set this to 800. Okay, then move on to the screen height. Set this to 600. Okay, now I'll create the screen and the name. Okay, so that's going to be screen equals pygame.display .set mode, and then the screen width here, and then the screen height. Okay, great. Now I'm going to give the game a name. So we do that by writing pygame.display.set caption, and then the name of our game. So we'll just name this, let's say 2-player ping pong. Okay, so I'm just going to uppercase this as well. Great, now I'm going to create a game clock. This will basically set like the FPS and stuff for our game. So create game clock. We do this by writing clock equals pygame.time.clock. Great, now I'm going to set the colors. So I'm going to first of all write white, and then the color like in RGB will be 255, 255, 255. And I'm going to set black, and this is all zeros. Okay, so to display all of this, we're going to need to create a game loop. First, I'm going to create a running variable and set it to true. Running equals true. Then create the loop while running. Okay, now inside of this, I will create another for loop for game handles. Okay, so for event in Pygame dot event dot get. Okay, great. Now I'm going to write if event dot type equals pygame dot quit in all caps. Then just set the running to true. So this will mean that the game will end, and the game loop will just stop. Okay, now I'm going to add a background color. So we do this by writing screen.fill And we already have the color set, so we'll just set it to black. Great. Now I will write a function to update the game as we go. So that will be pygame.display.update. Okay, and finally we will set the FPS for our basically our game. So set FPS. We'll write clock.tick 60. So this will run at 60 frames per second. Now let's run our game. Oh, there seems to be an issue. Let's go up. Here, we need to put these in double brackets. Great, now let's run our game. Okay, great, now let's run our game. And there we go. It works. So that's the second step done. Now let's move on to the third step of creating the ball and paddle. Okay, now so that the while loop is done, we can create our paddles and the ball. So let's create their dimensions first. I'm going to write over here, create paddles and ball. Paddles and ball. Okay, now let's start off with the first paddle. Oh, not the first paddle, let's start off with the width. So we write paddle width equals 15. And then the height equals 80. Okay, great. Now let's do the ball. So we're going to set the ball width to 12. And the ball height also 12. So this will just be a square. Okay, now let's create the rectangles. So I'm going to do that over here. I'm going to write create the rects. Okay, so let's start off with the first paddle. We're going to write paddle 1 equals, and we're going to create a rectangle here. So this will be pygame.rect. And this first one is the X position of where we want it to be. So let's set it to 10. And the second one is the Y position. And we want it to be in the middle of the screen. So we'll write screen height divided by 2. Okay, and the next one is the width. We already have that, so that's paddle width. And then the last one is paddle height. Okay, great. So now let's do this for the second one as well. Paddle 2, the same code, pygame.rect. This one we'll set at a different position. We'll set this one at 775. Okay, same thing, screen height divided by 2. Paddle width and paddle height. Okay, great. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the ball. So I'm going to write ball equals pygame.rect. Okay, and the first one, we're going to set it in the middle of the screen. So we're going to write screen width divided by 2. So this will be the X value, half the X value. And the second one will be screen height divided by 2. So that's the Y value right in the middle. Okay, and then the next one will be the ball width. Oh, sorry, not ball height, ball width. And then ball height. Great, so that's the ball and the rectangles. Now that's done, I'm going to create a function to draw all of the rectangles. So I'm going to do that over here, create the draw function. Okay, and I will write def draw brackets colon. Okay, and then here I'm going to draw all the rectangles on the screen. So I'm going to do that by writing pygame.draw.rect. Okay, and this will where we want it to display. So that'll be screen, and then the color, which is white, and then the first paddle. Okay, do that for the next ones as well. I'm just going to copy these. Change here, paddle 2. This one over here, I'm going to change this to ball. Great, now we're going to call this method in our while loop, or our game loop. Okay, draw, the draw method. Okay, now let's run our game. Great, we can see that all of these things are on the screen. Let's move on to the fourth step. A function to basically move the ball at start. So first of all, we need to create two speed variables. So I'm going to go up and do that over here. right here, right underneath the ball. Okay, so I'm going to write ball speed x, so this will be the x speed, the horizontal movement, and then the next one will be ball speed y, so the vertical movement. I'll set it to 5. Okay, great. Now I'm going to create another function to move the ball. So let's do that right over here. Okay, move the ball function. Okay, I'm going to write def move ball brackets colon. Okay, now I'm going to move the ball. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to just increase the x value and the y value of the ball. So ball.x plus equals ball speed x. So the ball x will move by the speed of the ball, the x value of the ball. Okay, so now I'm going to write ball.y plus equals ball speed y. Okay, great. Now let's test this function in our loop. Okay, I'm going to write it up here. So now add comments along the way. Move ball. Okay, I'm going to make the comments a bit better. They sound a bit too generic. So move the ball and then draw everything. Okay, now let's test our game. Great, we can see that the ball moves whenever it starts. Now let's move on to the 5th step of making the paddles move. Okay, now let's make a function to make the paddles move. So let's go up and first of all give the paddle a speed. So we're going to write paddle speed equals 7. Okay, now let's create a function to make the paddles move. So I'm going to do that right over here. Right here. Okay, and I'm going to write def move paddles. And inside of these brackets, I'm going to write a parameter. Let's write a parameter of keys. This could be any name. I just named it keys. I'm going to write if keys brackets Pygame dot k underscore w. So this is whenever the w key is pressed on the keyboard. And then this will affect the first paddle. So paddle 1 dot y minus equals the paddle speed. So whenever the w key is pressed, the paddle will go up by 7, basically I guess you can say units or pixels. Okay, and let's first of all get the global values of the paddles. So paddle 1 and paddle 2. Okay, now let's do down. So I'm going to write if keys pygame.s or k._s then we're going to increase the y value. So paddle 1.y plus equals paddle speed. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to give just some comments over here. So add some comments. This is for the up player 1, and this to go down for player 1. Okay, now let's do a player 2. Up player 2. This will be the up arrow key. So if keys brackets pygame dot k up, then we're going to do paddle 2 dot y minus equals paddle speed. So go up. Okay, same thing for the down. Down player 2. If keys pygame dot k down, then paddle 2 dot y plus equals the paddle speed. There we go, nice and easy. Okay, so now that's done, I'm going to get all of the keys from the Pygame function. So I'm going to do that here in the while loop. I'm going to set all of it to the function of keys. So keys equals Pygame dot key dot get pressed right here, and then brackets. So what we did here is we basically got all of the keys from the Pygame function. Okay, now we're going to call our function here, move paddles and keys. Okay, great, let's test our function. That's the 5th step done. Now let's move on to the 6th step of creating collision on the top and bottom. So now whenever we move the paddle, we don't want it to go off the screen. Well, that's easy to do. We can just go up here and write in the same if statement, and paddle 1 dot top is greater than 0. So now this statement will only work if both of these are true. So whenever we press the W key and whenever the paddle top is greater than 0, then only this will work. Okay, let's do the same thing for the down one. We can write and paddle 1 dot bottom is less than the screen height. So if it's more than the screen height, it won't work. Okay, same code over here. And paddle 2 dot top is greater than 0. And paddle 2 dot bottom is less than the screen height. Okay, great. So that's good. Now let's test it. Okay, yeah, we can see that they don't go off the screen whenever we move them up and down. So now let's make sure the ball doesn't go off the screen. So we can do that over here. We can just write if ball dot top is less than or equal to 0, or the ball dot bottom is greater than or equal to the screen height, then simply just send the ball the opposite direction. So speed y of the ball multiplied by -1. Okay, we have to do that. We have to get the global value of the ball speed y in order to use it. So we'll do that over here. And also the speed x. Great. So we can see it works. Great, that's the 6th step done. Now let's move on to the 7th, where we create collision for when the ball touches the paddles. Okay, so now we need to create a colliding function for whenever the ball touches the paddles. So we'll scroll down and do that over here. So we can write a function. First, I'm just going to add some comments. Okay, so we can write def ball collide brackets and colon. Okay, and here first of all we need to get the global speeds and also the ball. Global ball, global speed x, and yeah. Okay, and here we can write if ball dot collide rect with paddle 1, or ball dot collide rect with paddle 2, then just send in the opposite direction. So ball speed x multiplied by -1. There, and we also need to increase the speed. So we can write that here, increase speed. Now we need to write this function. Okay, so now let's create that function. So we can do that down over here, increase speed function. Okay, and then we write def increase speed brackets colon. Okay, great. And down here we can write if ball speed x is greater than 0 and the ball speed y is also greater than 0, then simply the ball speed x plus equals the increment speed. Okay, now we need to create this function or this variable. So let's do that up here. Right over here, we can write increment speed, and we'll set this to 0.5. So it'll increase by 0.5 every time it touches the paddle. Okay, And the same thing for the y value. So that'll be ball speed y plus equals increment speed. Okay, now we need to do the opposite if it's false. So else, we can write ball speed y minus equals the increment speed. Minus equals increment speed. Okay, same thing for the x value. Ball speed x minus equals increment speed. Great, now let's call this function in our loop. Let's do that over here. And we'll write some comments. Ball collide with paddles. Okay, then we write the function ball underscore collide. And then brackets. Okay, now let's test our game. Okay, it works. Oh, there seems to be an issue. Let's go see what the issue is. Oh, and it's over here. We need to add the global values of the ball speed x and y. Global ball speed x and ball speed y. Okay, so make sure it's all good. Okay, great. Now let's run our game. Okay, it works. Nice, the 8th step is done. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay, now we need to reset the ball after it touches the edges. So we can go up and do that over here in the move ball function. Okay, and right here we can write if the ball.x is greater than or equal to the screen width. So if it goes above the screen width, or if the ball.x is less than or equal to 0. Oh, not screen width, sorry. 0. So if it goes in the negatives, then we can reset the ball. Reset ball. Great. Now we need to create this function. Okay, so let's create this function over here. We can write def reset ball brackets colon. Okay, now we need to get the global values of the speeds. So global ball speed x and global ball speed y. Great. Now we need to reset its positions. So we can write ball.x, so the x value, is equal to half the screen width. So screen underscore width divided by 2. Same thing for the ball y, half the screen height. So ball.y equals screen underscore height divided by 2. Okay, now we need to set the normal speeds. So that'll be ball speed x equals 5, and ball speed y also equals 5. Okay, now we need to send the ball in a random direction after it gets to the center. So we can just do that down over here. We can write ball.x multiplied by random.choice brackets, then square brackets, -1 and 1. -1 and 1. So now what this will do is it'll choose either -1 or 1 and multiply the ball's x by that number. The random of -1 or 1. Okay, great. And not the ball x here, we need to change it to ball speed x. So the speed. Same thing here, we need to do the y. Okay, great. Now let's test our function. Okay, yeah, great. We can see that the ball goes in a random direction after it resets. Okay, now we're getting to the end. Let's increase the score with the 10th step. Okay, now we need to create 2 score variables which we can display on the screen when the player gets the point. So we can do that down over here. Create score and the font. Okay, and now first we do the first score. We do score 1 equals 0 and score 2 equals 0. The 2 score variables. And down here we'll create the font. So the font is basically just the style and the size which we want to display our text with. So we can write over here, we can write pygame.font, and then this will just set it to none, and the size will set it to 30. Okay, We might have to change this after, but let's go. Okay, now I'm going to create a function to display the score. So I'll do that right over here. Okay, we can write def display score, brackets, and then colon. Okay, now we need to get the global score values. So global score 1 and global score 2. Score 2. Okay, now we need to create the surfaces. So we can do that by basically giving them a text. So the score text, score underscore text 1, so that's for the first score variable. And this will be font.render, and this is the score. So we need to put this in string because it's an integer. String s score. Okay, and this is the first score. Okay, and this one we'll set this to true. Okay, and then this one is the color. So we'll say white. Okay, same thing for the second score variable, or score text variable. Score text 2 equals font.render, font.render, str, and then score 2. Okay, we also need to set this to true, and then white. Okay, now we need to display the score on the screen. So we can do that down over here, display score. We do that by writing screen.blit. Okay, and this will be the first score text. So score underscore text 1. Okay, and then this one is where we want it to be. So this one, like the x and y coordinates, so we'll write 50, 50. Just on like the top left. Okay, and this one, we'll write 775. 775. There we go. Okay, now we need to call this function in our loop. Let's go down and call it over here. And right over here. Okay, display the score. Okay, and then display score. Score. Okay, now let's run it. Okay, yeah, we can see the scores on there, but it's very small. So let's go and change that. Let's go, first of all, change the font size. Or not the font size, let's do this one over here first. Let's try 755, the positioning. And let's double the font size right over here. 60. Okay, let's run it now. Okay, good. Size is good, but we just need to fix the second score right here. Set this to 725. And there we go. It displays on the screen and it looks good. Okay, now we need to increase the score whenever the other player gets the point. Okay, so let's do that over here. First of all, we need to split this section up into 2. So we can create this into 2 if statements. If. Okay, and so this is whenever the ball is greater than the screen height. Then we reset the ball, and then player 1 gets this point. So that means score 1 plus equals 1. Okay, same thing for this one over here. When it's less than 0, then player 2 gets the point. So score 2 plus equals 1. Okay, now we need to get the global values of the score 1 and score 2. Okay, and everything's good. Now let's run our game. Okay, well, it works, but not the way we want it to. Let's go see what the issue is. Oh, and right over here, we need to change this to score text 2. Okay, this way the other score will also increase. Okay, now let's run our game. Okay, great, it works. Yes, and it works just fine. Nice. Now let's complete our final step and finish the game. Okay, now we need to create a max score variable which will end the game whenever the player reaches the max score. So let's do that over here. We'll write max underscore score and set it to 7. Okay, great. Now let's go create an endgame function. So this will be of the function to end the game. Function to end game. And let's also give some comments over here. Function to display the score. Display the score. Great. Now let's create our function. So we can write def end game brackets colon Okay, and now we can write if max underscore score is equal to score 1, so if the first player has the score, or max score is equal to score 2, so that's the second player, score 2. Okay, and then we're going to first of all create a screen that replaces everything. So create a new screen. Okay, this one will just be all black, so screen.fill black. Okay, great. Okay, now we need to stop everything. So it was mainly just the ball, so let's just write the ball dot, or not dot, speed x is equal to 0. And also the y. The ball speed y is equal to 0. Okay, nice. Now we need to get the global values. So global max score, and then this ball speed x and y. Speed x and speed y. Okay. Now we need to display the winner. So we can write over here, display winner. Okay, now we need to create this method. Okay, so let's create this method. This will basically determine which player won and then show the screen. So we can write def display winner brackets colon. Okay, now let's do the first player. So add some comments. Player 1. Okay, now we can write if score 1 equals max score. So if the first player reaches the max score first, then we have to create a text. So win equals, so this will be the text, font.render. Okay, and then we have to display player 1 wins. Okay, great. Now we need to display the score. So we can write screen.blit. Okay, and then win. Okay, now we need to center this text. So first of all, we need to create a center variable, which will find the center of the screen. Okay, so let's go do that up here. Let's create a center variable right over here. Right here, yep. So we'll write center equals screen.get_rect brackets and then .center. So what this whole code will do, it'll basically get the center of the screen, like get the create an imaginary rectangle around the screen and get its center. Okay, now we can implement this and use it to display the text, the center text. So let's go do that. First I gotta find it. Right here. Okay, now we need to make an invisible rectangle around the winning variable. So win.get_rect, and we can write over here center equals center. So this will basically center the text. Okay, same thing for when player 2 wins. Player 2. So if score 2 equals max score, then change the win equals to the player 2 wins. Okay, brackets, and player 2 wins. Okay, nice. Okay, and this is one thing that we forgot. We have to add three parameters here. So right here, true and then white. So this is the color. True and then white. Okay, now let's display this text using screen.blit. So we write screen.blit. Same thing, win, win.getRect. And then the center. Center equals center. So the center of the screen. Okay, so now this function is basically done. We just need to get the global values of the scores. So global score 1 and score 2. Okay, so now let's call this function in our loop. So we can do that right over here. Called the endgame function. Endgame function. Okay, and then we write end_game. Okay, now let's run our game. Okay, let me just try that again. Okay, yeah, so it works, but not really the way we want it to. Oh, and here's the problem. We have to call this function after the draw function. So after everything drawn, then we call the endgame function. Right over here. There. Now this will appear after all the drawings. Okay, now let's try this. And great, it works. So that's the game complete. Okay, let's try player 2 as well. There, it works. Thank you for watching this simple ping pong Pygame tutorial. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.